children as a marketing target. That's my subject. What is the nature of the problem? What is the gravity of the problem? Economist Juliet Shore wrote in her book, 2004 book, Born to Buy, she put it this way: corporations have infiltrated the core activities and institutions of childhood with virtually no resistance from government or parents. So this is the problem, that corporations in their pursuit of gain have infiltrated into childhood, and as a result are hollowing out childhood itself. I will explain why as things go along. Corporations have understood children's psychology and physiology without a fully formed frontal cortex, the part of the brain that enables us to control our impulses and to resist temptation. For children it is vulnerable. It is not there. Therefore they are vulnerable to advertisement targets. So they have understood the physiology, the psychology of children and their vulnerability, and they are pursuing it with intent. In the Meta and Google testimony, of which I will be speaking a little later, the essential voice came out in this way: I used the product, and later the product used me. So I use the product later uses me. This is through an addictive process. In the big tobacco hearing, where the big tobacco giants had to pay a fine of $206 billion back in 1998, the point was that the tobacco was spiked for addiction. They knew it was harmful, and yet they did it. That's the same thing that has been happening in social media, as I would speak presently. So this is the essence of the gravity of the subject. That is what we confront. In one word, we are confronting the hollowing out of childhood itself, the disappearance of childhood itself by social media addiction. In the Meta Google trials before the jury, before the Los Angeles jury, it came out that the addictive processes were deliberately designed. So that was the substance on which the trial went. Earlier in judicial hearings, Senator Foley told Mark Zuckerberg to address the parents who were grieving, the grieving parents who lost their children. What do you have to say to them? He apologized, but the parents said later that it was not an apology, that they didn't accept the apology because the essential point that it was deliberately designed, the platform was deliberately designed to harm the children, was not brought out. It was just this first statement was an apology, and the second statement was corporatese at its worst. I've heard that. So they imposed a penalty of $6 million. Just a few days later, New Mexico imposed a penalty of about $375 million. In both these cases, the point was that there was this addiction by design, that the whole thing was being pursued through a design, deliberate. Now, these are not the only two verdicts. There are thousands of cases, really thousands, being pursued in various US courts. It is a serious situation. And that is why most knowledgeable commentators have called this the big tobacco moment for social media, for Meta, and for Google. They're going to really face some real litigation and substantial payments. Meta had $172 billion wiped from its market capitalization when the investors digested these ongoing trial results. So there's a reckoning, and the reckoning has come in the United States for social media, especially directed towards children. That's there. Now, what happens for all these big corporations, including tobacco, when they got hit by the verdicts there in 1998? Their aim is profit. They are motivated by greed, corporate greed. Therefore, at that time, they turned attention to Asia, particularly to India. Tobacco was pushed there. Smoking was considered the big thing, the manly thing to do, that kind of thing. Billboards came along. They spent a lot of money on pushing their business into Asia, into India. This is likely, more than likely, that is a logical inference, because when they are getting really hit in the United States, and remember there are thousands of cases coming along, they're going to turn their attention to India. Why? Because this is the biggest children population in the world. This is the biggest, shall we say, market for children. So this is going to come, and in this way, I got the figures here: 448 million children in India, and the combined commercial child market is $52 billion, 4.3 lakh crores. So the corporations are salivating. They want to strengthen the Indian market. That's this position in India, and we should better be aware of it. And look at these figures. They speak, these facts, they speak. As of early 2026, there were 83,212 child influencers. Child influencers under the age of 16 on Instagram alone. A 41% explosion in just 18 months. And the number is growing. So they have marketers right here in the homes. These corporations have now marketers here. They've entered homes with their marketing. 70% of those creators of content are girls. They are being pushed into mini adult roles, makeup, fashion, all kinds of things. A 2024 report said 83% of Indian generation is that identify themselves as creators in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Content creation has replaced traditional pursuit and primary ambition. This is the in thing. There are 3.8 lakh mom influencers in India. 3.8 lakh. They are not just selling products, they are selling the privacy of their children as relatable content. India's influencer industry is a 3,375 crore empire. So this is the situation. It is a real prepared ground for the launch of bigger corporate products, platforms. Fertile ground now, everything is prepared. All the marketers are here, right here. The infiltration is nearly complete. And let us look at what has happened now at the moment, at present. I'm just taking food as one. Ultra-processed food with high fat, sugar and salt, designed chemically for addiction, that has gone up, shot up. The Economic Survey 2026 spoke of a staggering 40 times rise in the retail sale of UPF in India since 2006. The market for UPF is now worth $40 billion. We are in a health emergency really, but we don't care really. According to the World Obesity Atlas released March 2026, India ranks second globally for children with obesity. 41 million Indian children have a high BMI. 14 million Indian children have clinical obesity. By 2035, this is projected to more than double to 83 million obese children. Obesity coexists with malnutrition. Now, with this kind of situation here, what is the regulatory authority doing? The Supreme Court said that on this one aspect of front of pack warning signal, front of packet warning signal for presence of sodium, sugar, fat and all that, front of pack thing, they have been taking 6 years for so-called consulting with corporations. You know, these corporations have FDI, they are influential. FDI has come into this segment, into this very vulnerable segment they have. So, the Supreme Court on February 15, 2026 said, we are of the view that whatever exercise has been undertaken so far has yielded no positive or good results. The FSSAI's responsibility is to protect consumer health, not more important than opposition from food companies. So they have been going slow on this, and we don't expect very much from them. So what? Parental responsibility. How can we avoid that? That is the point. Don't ever expect government or FSSAI or the other regulators, consumer thing and advertisers, advertising councils and all that to do anything for our children. What is at stake is childhood itself. And ultimately, parents and society have to assert themselves, their responsibility. This is the situation on food. Remember all the social media and all these apps, and now there is a direct connection between the company and the children through apps. Don't have to go through parents. They've short-circuited it through apps. That is a situation. It's a very, very serious situation, really. Just last week, there was an investigation opened by Italian authorities into claims that they have driven children to what is called obsessive dermorexia, cosmeticorexia, an obsession for fair skin, and therefore driving them towards creams, really anti-aging creams that are not suitable for their skins. This is the case. That was last week. So when I talk about food, remember there are very many segments that are coming. And we better be aware. The way in which it comes is through the smartphones, through the social media, through the apps. That's what's good. That is what's coming. I take another company, and that is in India, racing superstars and edtech extortion, really. The company Racing Superstars sold a prodigy framework to parents of infants. They promised without any evidence at all that 90-day-old babies will crawl on command, and 18-month-old babies would have a 200-word vocabulary. And nothing of that happened because they just made the money. The punishment that they got was just 8 lakh rupees. And remember, this company, for the year ending March 31, 2025, they generated a revenue of 15.9 crores rupees. And they got a fine of 8 lakhs. You see this, you see the disproportion. They would add this to advertising, just add it. Another bit of advertising. What does it mean? They claim over 1.6 lakh users. And to take out the apps and all the data that they are taking out, they are being given by the so-called regulator a grace period of 18 months. So till then, they can keep harvesting the data, which is important. They have 1.6 lakh users. So I spoke about food, I spoke about this education apps, all these things, the anxious parents who want children to do big things. The very companies called Racing Superstars, all should be superstars. That itself is phony, So that's the state it is. On every aspect, if you think, whether it is clothing, whether it is food, whether it is education, this relentless marketing on using children as a market segment, considering this as a market segment, a $52 billion segment, where you take all these things into account, their clothing, their food, their education, everything, their whatever they wear and whatever they wear on their faces. So that is the situation in India. Practically no regulation, no regulatory authority, as evidenced from what the Supreme Court said only a few days ago. It's coming up again. So what are we left with? The parents have to assert themselves, because what we are seeing is the very loss of childhood. The childhood itself goes. I don't have to explain this because I have already told you. And therefore, the moral authority of society should be brought to bear on these corporations, on this social media usage. Australia has already come down on that. France is following suit, and many other countries. Indonesia is another one. I don't think it's going to happen in India. All the more reason why parents should assert themselves. The moral authority, the moral weight of society should bear on these corporations. For what is at stake is our children's childhood itself.